The Cuban Missile Crisis. October 27, 1962, the most dangerous day in human history. The U.S. Navy had surrounded Cuba. Soviet submarines were trapped beneath the ocean, low on oxygen, cut off from Moscow. Depth charges exploded around them. Aboard one submarine, B-59, Soviet officers believed war had already begun. Protocol required all three commanding officers to agree before launching their nuclear torpedo. Two said yes. One man, Vasily Arkhipov, said no. That single refusal stopped a nuclear war that could have killed hundreds of millions in hours. Missiles were armed, bombers were ready. The world teetered on the edge, and one quiet voice of reason kept civilization alive. When historians later analyzed the chain of events, they agreed. If Arkhipov had voted yes, the retaliation would have escalated into a full nuclear exchange. The Cold War would have ended in fire. The world we know today simply wouldn't exist. The Toba supervolcano. 74,000 years ago, in what's now Sumatra, Indonesia, the ground began to shake. Animals fled. The air turned thick with sulfur. Then, the earth ripped itself open. The Toba supervolcano didn't erupt. It detonated. A blast 1,000 times more powerful than Mount St. Helens. Ash and molten rock shot over 30 miles into the sky. Entire forests vanished in seconds. Within hours, a blanket of ash began falling across the planet. The sun dimmed. Days turned to twilight. Temperatures plunged. Crops died. Oceans cooled. For years, sunlight barely reached Earth's surface. Scientists call it the volcanic winter, and it nearly erased us. Global populations collapsed. Genetic studies suggest fewer than 3,000 humans survived, a number small enough to fit inside a single modern stadium. Those survivors, likely huddled near the equator, lived through years of freezing winds and ash-filled skies. Every person alive today traces their lineage back to those few who made it through. The Toba eruption didn't just shape Earth. It rewrote the human story. The Tunguska explosion. It was just after breakfast on June 30th, 1908. In a remote Siberian forest, reindeer herders looked up and saw the sky catch fire. A glowing blue object streaked across the horizon, brighter than the sun. Then, silence. A few seconds later, a shockwave louder than any thunder. An asteroid roughly 200 feet wide exploded in midair. The energy released was equivalent to 50 atomic bombs. Trees over 2,000 square kilometers were flattened like matchsticks. People hundreds of miles away were thrown off their feet. If the Tunguska object had entered Earth's atmosphere just a few hours later, it would have hit St. Petersburg, then home to over 1 million people. Instead, it struck empty forest. Pure luck. No crater was ever found, only scorched earth and endless devastation. For decades, scientists debated what caused it. A meteor, a comet, even an alien craft. But one fact is clear. Had Tunguska chosen a different angle, modern civilization might have ended before it even began. The Black Death. It started quietly. A few sailors returning to port with strange boils on their skin. Within weeks, the cities of Europe were dying. The Black Death spread faster than anyone could understand. Fleas carried it. Rats spread it. Ships transported it across continents. And once it arrived, it devoured everything. Victims developed blackened skin, swollen glands, and fever so intense it drove people mad. Doctors wore long bird-beaked masks filled with herbs, believing the scent would block the evil air. Nothing worked. In just 4 years, half of Europe's population was gone. Around 200 million lives. Bodies piled in streets. Entire towns disappeared overnight. Parents buried children. Priests stopped giving last rites. For a time, humanity seemed doomed to vanish under its own weight. But the survivors, immune, desperate, hardened, rebuilt. From the ashes of the plague came sanitation, medicine, and the first sparks of modern science. The Black Death almost ended us, but it also forced humanity to evolve. The Carrington Event. September 1st, 1859. British astronomer Richard Carrington was sketching sunspots through his telescope when the sun suddenly erupted. A blinding flash, brighter than anything he'd ever seen, burst from its surface. Hours later, the Earth was hit. Telegraph wires sparked and caught fire. Operators were shocked by their own equipment. Auroras lit the night sky as far south as Cuba. It was the most powerful solar storm ever recorded, the Carrington event. In 1859, the world barely noticed beyond a few burnt wires. But if the same event happened today, satellites would die, GPS would vanish, and power grids would collapse worldwide. Planes would fall silent. Cities would go dark. Banking, communication, medicine, everything gone within hours. NASA estimates such a storm has a 1% chance every decade. And the frightening truth? We'd have less than 20 hours warning before the world went dark again.